Hello everyone and welcome to the overview for 418 and 424. My apologies, I had to pull that other video. There were some sound issues and I made an adjustment. One more time, I pushed that draft 1 still to the 20th. A couple of you guys that I'm working with in different classes on making some changes, particularly in that opposition stuff. Not across the board, but several students having some issues there with opposition. So English 1510, here we are, guys, coming around the corner towards the end. I have posted mostly most of the things that I have. I'm still working on some things for a couple of your final drafts on rhetorical analysis for some of those ones, and then the component pieces for a couple of you on argumentation, mostly just outline in draft 1 though. So everybody should be moving towards the end of this. Now, if there are major changes that you need to make, obviously, if we've been working together on these already, you know that I am not opposed to making some more corrections and adjusting some of those on these component pieces. The draft 1, I have that now as Wednesday. Several of you already worked on the drafting stage and put those in by Sunday or Saturday or Sunday, and I've begun looking over most of those, and I'll continue to do so through this week and through the end of the weekend. And I have the final draft Dropbox open for the 27th. Now remember, the official end of the class term is the May 2nd, 5-2. But through that stage, the 27th through the 2nd, it's mostly going to be for revisions. Everyone will have their memoir feedback. If it's not already up on the final draft, it will be up, and you can do a rewrite on those ones. And then anything that I still need to address with you on argumentation can be adjusted up through that period. Has to be completed by the 1st, though. That'll be the last. That'll be the end date on any of those revisions besides the memoir one itself. So review the overview video posted. That'll be right here for this week. Last week's were twofold. I had 2 of them that I had to review. Move on to the final draft from argumentation. The Dropbox for the draft 1 staying open to the 20th. Remember that you should not be waiting on feedback on outline things and component pieces like that. If you still need line by line feedback on these things for drafting, you got to go through AC tutoring now. I don't usually do this much of it to begin with at a 1510 level, and I've exceeded a great deal of it, and it's put me it's caused some hang-ups in feedback overall, having to do so much of it with so many individual students. Now, for this, we're moving into this final drafting stage. Make sure that you are addressing anything I did mark on the summary thesis, the first component piece here, and then preliminary points of support, essentially your topic sentences and your works cited page. Still have a number of students with MLA issues there, particularly on the works cited page. Only some minor things on the primary points of support where some of you are still not really giving me real clear statements, get sort of vague points, not even necessarily argumentative. And also make sure you're avoiding ahistorical comments. When you simply present a fact, that's not an argument, right? If you say it's simply a fact that this percentage of this group of people has this issue, that's not necessarily presenting anything that's a point of argument. You're presenting one statement that oftentimes has an ahistorical context presented in that type of a claim. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that in the overview when I go through the argumentation and the final draft. But make sure you look out for those comments. Still a number of students with general to specific intro issues, and then quote formatting and not actually giving me a great deal of support. So we'll talk about that in a second too. If you completed the summary working thesis without issue, move forward. That was for same thing on draft 1, and now on draft 1 going into final. We still are working through some of these pieces though, excuse me. So here, I want to point out before I go into the Dropbox for the final draft, make sure that you note on the course schedule and tentative plan of work. I made some adjustments here to note the change of these dates on these final submissions. So on here, the rough draft finalizing that for April 20th as opposed to the 17th or 18th, which you originally had on there. Final draft with works cited be due by the 27th by 11:30 p.m. And the reading assignments from here now to the end of the term are simply your peer-reviewed research articles that you're getting from the databases. Again, there is nothing new that I'm assigning on those, but please make sure that if you have not gone through items like the content folder listings of your overview videos, the getting to know your library, MLA citations, works cited. As I said last week, again, just as a reminder, there are many students submitting things where your formatting problems and other issues that you have in the drafts and outlines and when you're submitting these, it really does show that you haven't done reading or haven't followed along with many of the lessons, because these things have been covered oftentimes 3 or 4 different times in different areas. And when it comes to formatting a works cited page, including the formatting issues of double spacing, hanging indents after first lines, what information comes first in an entry, alphabetizing the list itself, coming in alphabetical order. Those types of things are listed in several different places and were covered several different times. And it is also just as simple as using that first link that was included, the OWL Purdue, going to one of those pages and looking at a sample page. But there's sample pages included in your textbooks and the readings that were assigned already. So this is nothing that shouldn't be covered already or understood by the students creating these for your sourcing. Now, having said that, the finalization here of argumentation, most of you, all the way from summary, working thesis, preliminary points of support, works cited, and then into your outline in draft 1, most of you who are up to date with the assignments are doing really well. I mean, there are some finer points that we need to address, and I'll talk about those as I go through this, at least in brief terms. But the majority of you are doing very well. The argumentation final draft is due the 27th by 11:30, and that will also give me time to make any comments or corrections on those that I if there's anything major I need to have you address, like if you're actually missing something before the end of the term. The end of the term is 5/2, May 2nd, but the by that date it'll just be memoir rewrites that are going in. So for the final draft, the requirements follow the same as the rough, but now the requirements include a minimum of 5 full pages, followed by a works cited of at least 15 peer-reviewed sources. Complete 5 full pages of your third-person objective argumentation paper, along with the works cited page of at least 15 sources in MLA format. I reiterate this third-person objective only because some of you are having a little bit of a drift into subjectivity here. I'll talk about that as I move down to what we have with the against paragraphs. MLA formatting, most of you are having no issue now. The students who are still keeping up to date and actually completing work, I have the majority of you are looking like you are more than ready for moving into your 15-20 here at the end of the term. The intro must follow the general to specific layout and end with an explicit argumentative thesis statement. This means general to specific category statement at the opening of a general intro, an example that is not your own topic, a your topic section that gives your topic and relevant information, followed by a clear thesis. Remember, folks, when we're looking at these, general category is not the general category of stating your topic. If you are talking about something like animal testing, then the general statement is not about animal testing. It's about scientific testing or some type of other procedure in that area. Then you can talk about something perhaps along the lines of model testing or whatever it's going to be for your specific statement. It's general and then specific. If you're doing anthropogenic climate change, you may start off with a general category about a statement about things that are facing the world at large, major issues that the world is facing today, overpopulation, desertification, something to do with maybe mass transportation, whatever it is. General statement would be something along the lines of there are a number of pressing issues facing the world today or that the world faces today. That's a general statement. A specific would be giving another issue that the world's facing. So maybe something like overpopulation. For instance, overpopulation is getting to be a problem because of this, this, and this. Then you go into your topic section where you state yours. Though overpopulation is a major issue, the most pressing one being faced today is anthropogenic climate change. Or maybe you go the oppositional, right? But in any event, it's general, specific, your topic, and then the thesis claim that gives your clear argument about that topic. Don't make the mistake of thinking that the general refers right away to yours. This hasn't been the case since memoir, rhetorical analysis, now with argumentation. It's been the same the entire time, right? All body paragraphs for and against must begin with topic sentences. Topic sentence claims that clearly support one side of the argument. Again, the essay must be third-person objective in both argument and voice, no first-person or second, and avoid biased subjective claims. That means opinion statements must stay out, right? I want you to even avoid op-ed pieces when you're talking about peer-reviewed things. Most of those peer-reviewed articles should, if not all, should be strictly in the area of objectivity. Then, all body paragraphs must include 1 to 2 quotes. This is where a lot of people have fallen off, both in the outline and draft. 1 to 2 quotes. Outline must have the requirements called for full statements, meaning no fragments. Everything had to be in full statements and claims, and 1 to 2 quotes per body paragraph that were directly supporting some claim that you made. You must follow, for all quotes, intro quote, the quote format of intro quote, give quote, explain or defend quote. It seems like there were five or six students per class that had issues with understanding this or didn't read anything about it or have never used quote assimilation in their entire career of writing anywhere in academia. You must follow the format. You make a claim, that's a major support, right? If you have a topic sentence claim, and then you follow that topic sentence claim by one of your major supports of how you're supporting that, you give us a piece of evidence for this topic sentence. Then you support that with a quote. Transition in and support that with a quote. That's a minor support, and then explain or defend the use of the quote. I have put this on many of your assignments on outline and draft 1 with quote format. That's the heading of the info box. Both for general to specific and for quote format, there are correction boxes that are included. Make sure that you're reading through those. All against paragraphs must include a concession or refutation of the opposing views. You must deal with the opposition. Remember, concession means you concede they have a valid point, but you offer something better. Refutation means you can outright beat it. All against paragraphs should focus on clear, relevant points of opposition. Do not strawman the opposing viewpoints. Some papers are beginning to present oppositional points that are oversimplified, weak renditions of actual existing opposition, or simply creating oppositional points that have been manufactured to appear to respond directly to your own support points, but they do not actually represent the most relevant points of opposition that exist. This means you're tailoring some type of an oppositional point to meet some point of support that you made. Just because you have a valid point of support doesn't mean that the only opposition is what would directly go against what you just said. You have to acknowledge there are clear points of opposition. I'm not going to point to anybody specifically or call anybody specifically out on these, but you know when you're doing these. Okay, it's clear even in your writing that you know when you're doing these. Make sure you do not fall into this area of fallacy in your framing. The vast majority of these arguments are still debated because they are relevant points on both sides. However, simply because you present a logic-based argument does not automatically invalidate a pathos one for opposition. Meaning if you're just sticking to facts doesn't mean somebody's emotional argument is invalid. Similarly, presenting a pathos argument in favor of your topic does not mean that the opposition is only pathos, emotionally based as well. There are several students falling into this category right now. You have an emotional argument to support your claims, and therefore you're only offering oppositional responses that are pathos as well, emotionally driven, when there's a lot of actual research in the area of I'll stick with that. Logical information that opposes this. Works cited should begin at the top of the new page. Again, all drafts must follow the MLA format and requirements. Okay, that's it for this week, guys. If you have questions, let me know. For those of you who have not contacted or been keeping up with work, you're past the due time here, guys. It's going to be a failed grade. I will see